Okay, we are on the main screen. I think everyone can hear me. Test, 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 test. Okay, nice. Good night, everyone. Welcome to I think episode 19. Wow, 19 of the Board Experience podcast. We have well, compared to last episode, we have somewhat of a full cast tonight. Wow. What's in our windows? But we'll pull through. I don't think we'll have like a really lengthy episode tonight. So we'll give it our best. So as usual, we will start off with our weeks, and then we'll delve into the main topic. Well, the topics I have jotted down. So number one hero, Brandon. Since you're up first, let's hear it. Tell us about the week.
This week wasn't bad, you know. I this week I got my final set of grades to close off this semester. Um, so I mean that's a wrap on this semester. So at least I'm relieved for that part. Uh,
All right.
Other than that, I mean we had the beach outing yesterday, which was pretty much the highlight of my week. I will lie. But yeah, that's about it. It was a slow week, but I'm glad it's over, man.
Okay. Okay, that's pretty chill. Pretty chill week. What about you, Cam?
Honestly, my week has been, um, bro, it's been like insane. This week that had passed is like has been one of the most profitable weeks for me personally.
Okay.
All praise to the Most High God, first off, for allowing me to be in a position where I can, take the necessary steps to do what I would like to, and it's been benefiting me, so I can't complain. I unfortunately I'm not getting outside and getting as much sun and stuff as I would like to, but you know, I decided to sacrifice a few things for the next couple of months to just build a very solid financial foundation and then branch out into other things. Lots of progress, and I'm happy about it.
Okay. That's nice. That's nice, man. That's good to hear, man. Um. Hold on, he muted for a second. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Cam, you still there?
I
Yeah,
heard you
hello,
said
hello.
you were not able to get out much. You were not able to get much sunlight for your week, and you're sacrificing, making the necessary sacrifices so you could have a solid financial foundation. So let me ask you: you were not getting outdoors much. I'm assuming that you were indoors.
Say that one more time.
You said since you were not getting out to get much sun as you would like to. I'm asking if you were indoors.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the main reasons I don't get as much sun as I want to, I always try to like tell myself, you know what, I'm gonna just like go outside for like 30 minutes today or 10 minutes at least. But by the time I get to doing what I do, it's like I'm so focused and time passes so quickly. I end up not even, going outside essentially. So
Wow, you have a lab, man. You know, it's fellas that run in the lab underground that
Something
don't
like
time
that.
to come up to sunlight, you know.
Yeah, well, the man's a genius, a boy genius, man. Yeah, man.
Alright. So what you working with chemicals and grass or just chemicals only?
Nah. I just for the sake of anonymity, I just make some very important people very happy over the internet.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's down to me now. The week, pretty interesting. Uh, what happened this week? I mean, Grace came out this week. Other than that, I went out a couple of times. Well, namely twice actually. I actually went to snorkel twice this week. It was really interesting, really nice. Sadly, not much to see, due to the place we're snorkeling, but it was still nice, man. It was still enjoyable. I enjoyed it. Um, and that's what I would say about the week. Okay, your turn, Dad. Tell us about the tell us about the week.
Well, my week was alright. It was pretty much routine. Wake up, go to work with the focus of making enough money to pay the bills. Come back, go to work, make money to pay the bills. Come back home, go back to work. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, okay,
That's pretty much my week.
okay. All right, pretty pretty routine. Okay, so so one of the topics I wanted to touch on tonight. Uh, I know I wanted to talk about. We had a really interesting discussion this week. During the chat this week, I was just briefing you before the pod started. Kem, do you remember the man who bends in a relationship, right? So I figured
Ah,
The man who
who
what?
bends in a
Then
relationship.
relationship, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I know we dusted it off already during this week, but
Yeah, but I would like to hear your take
yeah,
and
for sure, for sure, for sure. I'm just mentioning, like, we settled it during the week, but I decided just to bring it up again. Since we're actually on air right now. So
so what was the conclusion? Let me hear what was the conclusion? What did you all conclude?
um, so you want to hear the conclusion straight away, or you want to start
Give me
from the
some
top?
prelude. Tell me what happened. Yeah, tell me what happened and what your the conclusion you came to.
Okay, so okay, I guess I'll just start from the beginning. Okay, so it basically just came about, we in the Discord, we just shoot out questions, that we just discuss during the week, different think pieces and so on. So boom. Um, wow, my memory. Kim, just help me. Like my memory a little shaky and thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I was just about like scrolling up a little bit to see if I can like
yeah,
find everything that was this time because
yeah,
we've been talking a lot
a lot.
recently.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay, so the thing is, I'm just trying to remember how it came about exactly. But anyway, I think I'll circle back to that. Um, right. So I think I was saying, in a relationship, in certain instances, there are certain instances where, uh, for the relationship to move forward, or, I guess, progress, there are just certain situations where you, as a man, may have to compromise, and your partner as well, obviously, may have to compromise, just for the the smooth running of the relationship. That's what I was saying. But initially when I just said it straight away. I didn't really give an example, and I think that's where the a slight misconception, correct me if I'm wrong, came came in. So I think it was Kim who said, um, successful men do not bend in a relationship. Am I right? Am I right so far?
Mm, you along the lines, yes,
Along the
along
lines,
the
yeah.
lines.
I'm trying my best. I try. Just correct me if I fall short. Um, yeah. So he said the successful men do not bend in relationships, and think I think you sent a link afterwards. It's really fuzzy right now. I really can't remember. So I mean, I guess as we go along, continuing, I'll remember, but I'll just jump to the conclusion. Um, basically, I gave my example, and I think I painted a clearer picture because the initial picture I painted, it was a bit fuzzy. Um it was a bit blurry. I don't think I was too clear. So I gave the example. It was understood, and that was that. Right?
Right. Okay. So yes. So what I was saying, initially, before you had said, what if, you want to go out with the boys, but then your woman,
Right,
your
right.
lady is pregnant or something like that, and
Yes,
would
yes.
that be necessarily bending? So here's my thoughts on this, right?
Mm.
As you and I both know, we can see that even Prince Harry going through some relationship situations right now. Right?
Right.
There's I don't know what is the name of that philosophy or philosophical belief that I hold, but you see how there is balance in this world, and for there to be balance, they must have light and darkness. You know how they say yin and yang. They have day and night. They have male and female. There's always two aspects of it. And there's also a saying, how can the branches and leaves of a tree grow to the heights of heaven if it does not have roots buried in the depths of hell? So I feel like essentially what people are trying to do these days is trying to emasculate men. And I sent a link saying that based on the historical DNA that they have discovered, for thousands of years, every one man impregnated and spread his seed to 17 women. So you honestly truly believe that this guy was having time to sit back and and do this and do that. He was busy having to hunt and protect what is his. But when it comes to bending, you realize these days that first off, I personally realize men that talking about bending and compromise and stuff are not men that have access to as much options for them to be in a position to make such demands in the first place, because it's only the higher level percentage or higher echelon men that are capable in the first place of being able to stick to a certain goal or trajectory and not be moved, right? Because women would know, if I don't play a part of his plan, or if I don't move along with him, I'm just going to be left behind, right? So what I'm saying is, if you realize, you and I both realize, and even with the picture, I think I posted a picture on my WhatsApp status. A girl meets a guy, and he's this punk guy, and you have his
Yeah,
bear
I
and
saw
his
that one. I saw
cigarette
that
in
one.
his hand and whatever. And then as time goes on, and he begins to compromise, and he begins to become a nicer, more softer person. Two white people, and they get married, and he finally is the softest and most compromised he could ever be. His wife end up having a black baby. So with this and with so many other examples, you see men who try to communicate, and men who put away their vocation and their life, goals and their this and that, and to compromise and to give her love and to give her attention, and it never ends up where people expect it to be, right? So I say all that to say, honestly speaking, it will sound toxic, but honestly speaking, there must be boundaries in relationships, boundaries that men have to set, and men have to be men of their words. If they say something, they must do it, no matter the cost. If there is something that must not be done, the woman, his partner, obviously, I'm not saying that in a tyrannical sense, right? Because we are not tyrants. We love our wives, our partners, you know? And the thing is, it's not to view them as, equals, but part of your kingdom. And anyone, any civilian, any woman, anything that is part of your kingdom, you love, you cherish, you protect, you provide for to the utmost of your physical, mental, spiritual ability. But there must be a point where it's my way, or you cannot continue moving along with me. Because you and I both know, Dwayne, we've seen it so many times. As soon as men decide to go back on their word and they don't want to spend time with their boys again because the woman says so, eventually it doesn't end well. You and I both know that. But you were saying, what if, your woman is pregnant and, stuff like that. I'm saying that's personally my perspective. That's not necessarily bending,
Right.
because that's your biological duty as a man to protect what is yours, protect your wife in her most vulnerable state, protect your offspring, protect your household. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Certain
Okay.
little thing like that. So that's like your biological responsibility. But when it comes to your mission, your
Yeah,
goals,
goals. Yeah,
your
you don't compromise
plans,
those. That's what I said.
you shouldn't compromise those. You
Yeah.
shouldn't essentially you shouldn't miss out on $1 million deal with some people for another business, or $1 million deal just because your wife doesn't, oh, I don't know about this, and I don't like these guys. You shouldn't be putting yourself in such situations just because she says so. You know what kind of makes me crazy? I don't understand it here. I don't know if it's just me, or I don't know if it's just a testosterone that's built inside of me. But I cannot understand how. Maybe it's because I don't have the average mindset, and I know I want to be in a position where I call the shots, obviously out of love.
Right.
But you ever talk to guys, or I don't know, you might not have done that, but
Right. Right.
kind of what I do on the side is I do a little bit of sales here and there too, talking to American people, and I'm talking to guys and stuff, and the guys know it would benefit them. But oh, I have to go back and talk to my wife, and every single decision they make, they have to talk to their wife. Like, you mean to tell me you are not in a position where you can be level-headed enough to see a beneficial path that you can walk down that will benefit you and the family, and you have to talk to your wife about it? You know how many opportunities men have missed out on because their wife just didn't want them to do it? Eventually, your wife loses respect for you. But a man who can put his foot down and say, baby, you know what? The answer is no. The moment you can assert your presence and dominance in a loving and respectful way, but still keep your ground and hold your boundaries, let me tell you something, my friend. That's when the sex is the best. Trust.
Okay. Bull take. Bull take. Any? Well. I don't know. Let me not intrude. Are you? That's your take there, right?
Essentially,
Okay.
I might add a bit more
Right. Right. Right.
as we continue, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. For now. Okay. Uh, yes. Any brother,
What?
brother, brother, you have anything to say? I know my dad wants to say something, but let me ask before. My dad goes right ahead. You want to say anything? Number one hero.
Mm, Let
Oh.
me let me let me hear what your dad has to say first.
Nah, Brandon, let me hear your take first.
Ah, Alright, alright.
Brandon jumping
Um,
chest there.
I think, man, it don't have to be. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Maybe it's just thoughts. Any
um,
comments?
alright. To put it simply,
Yeah.
um, okay. So in psychology, there is a concept of thinking, um, that is governed by the term "it depends," right? And the basis of that is that you will never have every piece of information necessary to judge a situation. Um, so it always depends. It depends on the conditions. It depends on the persons involved, um, and various other factors, basically. Um, so in a situation like that, I would say that, and that might sound like the complete opposite of what Kim said, but I would say that bending is a must. The funny thing is, compromise, like you said, you spoke of balance earlier, but compromise is balance, quite literally. Um, if something either goes on one side or the other side, that's not balance. It has to meet in the middle for it to be balanced, and that's essentially what compromise is. Um, in a relationship, while the man is in charge, um, that doesn't mean that he has to make every decision on his own without consulting his wife. And even in situations where he feels like his wife would know better, there shouldn't be any shame in asking. You said you do marketing and that you've seen men pass up on opportunities that would be beneficial to them because their wife said otherwise. Let's take into consideration the fact that a man he may not be well versed in business, but his wife might be. So he might have to consult his wife first. And if you ask me, if you don't know about business, even as a man, consulting your wife, who is probably a businesswoman, is the wise decision. So, um, the idea that compromise is emasculating, I can't get behind that. I may have misunderstood what you're saying, but I can't get behind that. To me, compromise is a must. I'm not saying you should compromise for everything, and I am not saying that um, you cannot make decisions as a man, as the head of the household. I believe you can, and I believe you should if you're in a position to make an informed decision. But if you are not, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. The other thing I see is that whether or not you you are supposed to be running the household, out of love, taking consideration for your partner is not wrong. Uh, I remember, I remember in the week, um, Kim said like fellas with high levels of testosterone, they don't have the time, the patience, the energy to deal with children. Um, and I mean, understandably so. But at some point, you have to realize, like, bro, that's your offspring, that's your children, that's your that's your legacy. um, so there's a bit of consideration that should be taken out of love. Um, you said in the past, men have been known, to have children with multiple women. Yeah, you said it right. In the past, times have changed. Um, Kind of a prehistoric mindset to think that you can apply things from back then to now. Everything has changed. And while the fundamentals are still like grounded in society, men are still generally the providers of the home. But women can be as well. So you need to understand that men and women have a role to play. And just because you are the breadwinner, quote unquote, or the main breadwinner, doesn't mean you should feel offended if um your wife is taking part in that. I mean, we don't have a society where women sit at home and do nothing and expect the husband to provide for them. It happens, yeah, but that's not the majority of society. So as I mean, basically, balance is key, but balance means compromise. You should be rooted enough in your values to stand firm, and on both parts of the relationship, each partner should understand that their respective partners have their own goals, they have their own dreams that they're trying to achieve, and putting somebody back on their own dreams or on their own goals for your personal gain is selfish. So if you feel like the women in your life or the woman in your life is keeping you behind, just cut it off. That's not the woman for you. Find somebody that will support your dreams, but at the same time, don't find somebody that will sit back and just be in the background and expect to be there if you when you're successful. Find somebody that'll help you along the way. Find a woman that's just as ambitious as you. And if you feel like in any way you're being hindered, rather than trying to enforce your values on somebody that is not willing to accept it, just move on. That's how I see. But balance is compromise. But compromise should have a limit. You don't compromise for everything.
Okay.
Okay, so before anyone else speaks, really quickly, like, all due respect, I love new perspectives. I love other perspectives. But I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like, no disrespect to you. Honestly, bro, no disrespect to you. Absolutely not. I just want to make that clear. But you see, everything you just said there, like, like the atoms in my body were just cringing. Hey, now. Like,
Yeah, I'm
no
not surprised.
disrespect to you, though, right? But when you say like, that was back in the day, and thing, back in the day, whatever. Well, with that same logic, you essentially also saying that the ideal type of relationship that God had set up in the Garden of Eden is now not no longer valid then with that argument, because if you
Now,
think about it.
I did say the fundamentals remain rooted.
Right, right. Okay. All right. Well, so if you think about the situation of the Garden of Eden, there were certain values, there were certain things that were to be instilled and matured in Adam before he was in a position to, really be, Eve's companion, right? There were certain things that had to be instilled in him first. There were also things that had to be instilled, in Eve. Now, the whole purpose for Eve being created was to be Adam's helpmeet. Now, obviously, today, with liberation and no longer under the patriarchal society, women are free to do as they please. And, why is it that we've made so much progress technologically, you name it, but yet we are the most depressed, disgusting, and furthest away from God we've ever been in any point in Earth's history with all the progression, right? So, personally speaking, in my perspective, it would be that much more beneficial if we went back to the fundamentals, especially those of us who know what the fundamentals are. Like you're saying, And I agree, if you're in a position where you have a dream, you have a goal, and you have a woman that's keeping you back, you should cut her off, and, or you should let her go and whatever. But the thing is, men are not really doing that these days. You have men who cannot afford vehicles, who cannot afford to take care of a family, but are already looking for women to be companions with them. Essentially, when you do that, you slowing yourself down. You're not able to build yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, before you can be in a position to then say, okay, now I can begin exploring my options. Because if you think about it mathematically, you have a girlfriend, but you have a goal. So you're growing up, you're not financially in a position to take care of a family yet. Fair enough. Let's say you have a girlfriend, you spend just about an hour a day talking to her, because you'll not have a girlfriend and never speak to her for an entire year. Instead of building yourself and becoming a better version of yourself, you would have spent 365 hours just talking to somebody that you may or may not break up with. That's time wasted, right? You have fellas that barely have $10,000 in their account, and I hear they want to get married. Like, like, honestly, like, no disrespect to nobody. If anybody end up hearing that, and you that person, like, no disrespect to you, honestly. But I believe, as an Adventist and as a Christian, and like you say, compromise, and I can agree with that too as well. There may be moments when my wife may say, hey, you know what? I feel like we should have a level-headed, discussion or realization about XYZ situation. But what I personally believe, that I would want to build myself to be in a position to where I can say, you know what? The only compromise I have to make is between me and God. Because the way I see it is, I am to be the head of the house, the priest of the home, and in direct contact with Jesus himself. So really and truly, every decision will not come from my mouth, It's from Jesus it coming from. When I pray about certain situations, and I'm in a situation where, I need some help, I will discuss it with God. I will discuss it with Christ and ask him to reveal to me what I need to do first, right? And then be in a position, to say, hey, babe, you know what? This is the next move we're going to make. Hear her feedback, hear what she has to say, explain to her why I believe my position is vindicated, and we move forward. Right? Obviously, not in a tyrannical way or tyrannical way of doing things or controlling, obviously. But a woman is or was from the Garden of Eden there to be a man's helpmate. That is quite literally it. Right? But obviously times change, and people want to be liberated and free from men, and so I mean, but different cultures, what might be for St. Lucia might not be for Eastern Europe, might not be for Germany, might not be for this, that, and that. But that's just me. I don't know. I cannot see myself ever being in a position where it's like I have to come to my wife, hey babe, please, can we? I want to spend money. I want to buy some crypto. Please, babe, please. You no, no, man, no. If you have to do something, I have
I
to
mean,
beg my
I get
wife
what
and
you're
say,
saying.
please.
I
No,
get what
I
you're
can't do
saying,
that.
but the shortcomings you describe in there are society's own shortcomings. For example, you spoke about um wasted time. If you talk to if you're talking to a woman 1 hour a day, every day for a year, that's 365 wasted hours. Um, I mean, you can say that, but eventually you want to get married, or eventually, most men want to get married, which means you eventually going to spend 365 hours talking to her anyway.
Well, let me just cut you short, really, really, really quickly to clarify something. The reason I said that is just in the context of young men who have not built themselves to even be in a position in the first place to take a relationship seriously, to where if it had to go into marriage, they would not be able to cater towards that mentally, physically, financially. Spending time, so much time with women can be actually a hindrance, right? But obviously, you would want to get married, but that's after you would have built yourself into the best version of yourself that you can be, and you can pick the best options that are available to you. But yeah, go ahead.
Out of that, um, so out of the entire year, right? After you wasted quote unquote 365 hours talking to that woman, you would have had 8,395 hours left. In those 8,395 hours, you're telling me you cannot build up yourself. If you lose 1 hour a day, you can't build up yourself. If you miss 1 hour and I'm not even saying, I shouldn't even say miss 1 hour, because objectively speaking, different goals require different processes. And if you do intend to get married, you have to talk to her anyway. And if you're trying to build yourself up and you use 1 hour out of your 24 to talk to a girl, first of all, if it takes you an entire year to realize that you're not compatible, you're wasting time anyway. Uh, I know how it would take you an entire year to realize that somebody not right for you, unless she real tie you. And if she real tie you, bro, that one there, that's a different problem. That's a whole different problem. But I guess I just see it differently. I see it as simultaneous processes. Um, and I go lie again, like you said, like no offense, um, but you sounding really one track minded right now. Like you cannot focus on anything other than what you're trying to achieve at the present moment. Like you cannot
You are
split
correct.
your
You are
attention.
100% correct.
Yeah, you can't split your attention between multiple things, and that's fine. Different people operate
Hyper-focused.
differently. Um, and you did say it earlier that when you get into your work, time moves by so quickly because you're so focused, and I understand that. Um, which again points to the reason why we think about that situation differently. The way I see it, same way I am able to fulfill my roles at church, keep up with school, work throughout the day. That is three roles I'm doing right now, all simultaneously. Am I tired? Yeah, every single day. Um, but I'm able to do all three of those things. I go lie. If I add dating to that roster, I go probably just burn out and
Yeah,
die.
you're very passive.
But I go probably lose. No, that was a joke. That was a joke. But I think you get what I'm saying. So different people are built differently.
Yeah.
Um, if you, I mean, oh, there's no rush in getting married, but you may find yourself left behind if that's your focus. By the time you quote unquote financially stable, um, you might end up looking around and trying to figure out what's left for you. Um, I don't know what to say, buddy. You might end up in a situation where you want to get married, but the options that you thought you had were taken by the guys who took the 365 days to entertain them. Uh, I don't know. That's the way I see it. You like
My
there's
friend.
a point at which you have to be able to multitask in life. Like I that's how I see it. You have to be able to focus on your
My
goals
friend,
and do something else at the same time. What about
my friend.
recreation, dog? So you tell me you doesn't take a moment to relax, just to chill, just to take a breather. It's just tackle your goals non-stop. That's how you operate.
Yeah. So after I buy my house next year, and then I'll pick up probably like, maybe a hobby or two. But let me tell you something, my friend. You should know, and everyone here should know that men always win in the end. If you're
I
focused
knew that was gonna say
on
that.
your goal, men
I
win in the
knew
end,
that.
my
I
friend.
knew that gonna
My
say.
brother, you think a shorty will prefer somebody that spends 6 hours a day with them over somebody that can buy them 6 cars? Come on, man.
So what if I
All
spend
right.
these 6 hours a day
Serious.
with them and I can still buy them 6 cars?
So
Okay, if with the way you talking there, with the way you talking there, you will never get to that point.
You'll
I
be
can say that with
surprised.
the utmost confidence. I can say that with
hey,
the utmost
I go
confidence.
lie, not to take it to the extreme, but I know some fellas that they check it, they spend 24 hours a day focus on their goals, and in the end, they just tie a rope and just jump off it.
Ari,
all right,
well, Ari,
guys.
okay, well, all right, we'll see, we'll see. In the next 5 years, we'll see how
I
good
think
you
it go happen to you. I'm not saying it go happen to you, but I know of cases like
are.
that.
Nah, my friend. Okay, when I'm 40 years old, when I'm 50 years old, I'm a 20-year-old and I marry now. You crazy man. It'll not even take me 40 years to get to where I want to be.
You'd
I'm
be
making my
surprised.
10 milli before I
Camille,
touch 20. Facts.
Camille. All right, guys. This is just listening to you guys give your perspective and listening to how you're analyzing things. This is very interesting, somewhat therapeutic. And it's very interesting to just hear people's opinions and how they process things. It's very interesting, honestly. But there's some definitions here I think that there's some things that mean different things to different people. So from what I gathered, Kemuel seems to be very focused on or driven by his goals of success. He has a certain picture in his mind of what success looks like. He has a certain picture in his mind about what a man is defined by or what a man is supposed to be like and how a man should govern. I think he has respect defined by the way a man conducts himself and success and so on. So, success and what makes a man obviously uh, varies from person to person. All right. Success for you might be having a lot of money and be able to buy your house and do whatever you want, have that certain level of financial freedom. For somebody else, success might be just having a good education. For success, for somebody else, it might be having a good job, yeah, pays enough to just pay the bills and live comfortably. So success means different things for different people. So does what makes a man? Is it having 17 women and 20 children with 20 different women? Does it mean having a certain physique, having a certain level of education? You know, so these things are all up in the air. And depending on how you see these things, your response or how you view these things will be different. Camille made some very good points, and Brandon made some very good points. At first, when Camille spoke, Camille sounded to me like he was all over the place. You made some good points. Honestly, I will highlight those points that you made that I thought were very valid. But when Brandon came on, I found that Brandon was able to bring in the reins and highlight those issues and actually rebuff those issues that were just wild. Brandon seems to be very spot on with his comments. Brandon seems to be very focused. Um, so first, I will speak on the things that Kemuel spoke on that made some sense, and it has to do with his focus. So he's very focused. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's some people who are very focused on what they want to accomplish in their life, what they want to do with their time, what they want to do with their money, and what direction they want to go. These people are extremely focused. They generally don't have time for nothing else. They don't have time for no pappy show. They want nobody in their space or anybody in their time that's going to keep them back. You know, they count those things as wasted time and so on and so forth. There are people like that. And that's people who are almost like tunnel vision because they're fixed or they're fixated on achieving a certain goal. But there are also some people who want to accomplish those very same goals but go about it differently, go for a different mindset, a different approach. Like Brandon would say, they can balance work, family, dating, and all other different aspects of their lives comfortably. Okay. Kemuel spoke about if no. So one of the things he mentioned that had my head spinning was where he said that the picture I'm getting from Kemuel is that the man being the head is supposed to have this charge. You're supposed to have this like instinct to lead and decide. The woman does not really have much weight in decision making. So going to her and asking her for that's just not in the question for him. Going and ask, it sounds like it's like going to ask a woman for permission for something. It sounds subservient. It sounds pathetic to him. You cannot see yourself ever going and ask a woman for do you think I should do this? Or do you think I should do that? And that's the same kind of voice he used. So that should show you he has you cannot see yourself going to that level because she's your help meet. Whatever that's supposed to mean. I would really like to hear you expound on what you define helpmeet to be. What do you see a woman being a helpmeet? Does that only mean she's there to satisfy your desires? She's a helpmeet in that area, or she has no decision power making? Because it sounds like she's very helpmeet. Sounds like she's been relegated to a specific duty or task, and she's not supposed to get past a certain, function. That's what it sounds like. So yeah, that sounded kind of, distorted, kind of twisted, and I wasn't sure exactly what he meant by that. And that in moving on to something on the topic of compromise, Brandon again was spot on there. Compromise is or does bring about balance. Okay. What I think you should not compromise on is principles. There are certain principles that we are all governed by, and those principles, I believe, we should hold firm to our principles. Okay. There are certain things, obviously, that you have to compromise on for the relationship to move forward. They think you have to compromise. It's all about compromise. If you're not willing to compromise, that is already a big, big, big problem. There's no way any relationship will work. And I'm not all wise and all educated, but the little that I know and the little experience that I have, I've been married for almost 25 years. I can tell you, there is no relationship that will function, a healthy functioning relationship that will work without compromise. It will just not work. Period. Okay. So, and if it's a situation where even if you think that all decision making comes through you as the head, and there's no time where you should come to your wife or I'm speaking in strictly the context of wife here, and ask your wife for something, it should never, if it never make you feel like you're belittling yourself to come to your wife to ask, because you're not all wise and you don't know everything. you may not be very versed in something that your wife may be actually very versed in, or very trained in, and her opinion surprisingly might actually give you a whole different perspective on something, or the angle that you've never considered before, and that might very well enhance the decision that you're about to make, that you think is the best decision. So back to your sales example, where you do your sales and marketing, the man says, well, I cannot make that decision because I have to ask my wife first. That is, I mean, that is great. That's complimentary, because by him asking again, he's going to get her opinion on it, and his opinion might just be a different take altogether. I could use myself as an example, because this has happened to me so many times, Camilla. There are times when I made decisions that I thought was the best decision. I mean, I saw it as only a win-win situation, and in some cases, I went ahead and I made those decisions, and it worked out to be perfect. I cashed in. It was a great deal. It was, we all benefited. There were other times I got deals that looked the very same way on the surface. I made those decisions without consultation, and guess what? It didn't work out so well. You understand? There are times I went and I did consult with my wife, and I got great advice. I got a whole different perspective on the situation that actually helped me to make a better decision, or to renegotiate and get more out of it. You understand? So consultation, I wouldn't say asking for permission, but consultation with your partner is important. You also have to factor in a relationship that you have shared finances. And Brandon brought in a very good point. If your partner is, for example, you may be facing a business decision, but you're not trained in business. She may be an impeccable business manager or supervisor or whatever, and she has a better, stronger financial background than you are. You go to ask her, and she'll give you sound banking advice. I almost sound like I'm talking about myself, because I'll use myself as an example. My wife is into banking. Okay, I'm self-employed. Well, now full-time self-employed, and um, before I got to where I was, like I said, I made some bad decisions. I made some good decisions. Sometimes I consulted, and sometimes I didn't. So I can speak on both sides of the subject and tell you what the pros and cons were. I could tell you where I benefited and where I flopped. Okay, so in the end analysis, I can tell you it's better to consult. Basically, it's better to consult. There are times I've tried to sell an idea to my wife, and she just did not get it. She did not see the benefit that everybody would have in it, and I went ahead and I did it anyway. It caused a little bit of confusion. There was confusion because obviously I had to use finances from the family's finances, but they benefited. There was some, disturbance, but at the end of it, and now other times, like I said, I tried that same approach and it did not work. It flopped. It can be very disruptive. Again, that's where compromise comes in. So being older and wiser, I will tell you that um, consultation is necessary. Compromise is necessary for the happiness of your family, for the happiness of your spouse. Your spouse should never be made to feel that they're not a part of. Okay, if you have this perception that you're the man and what you say goes, and if I come to you, I don't have to come to you with anything or tell you anything or ask you anything. What I say is final. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, when it's time to have sexual intercourse with your spouse, do you ask? Do you just take because you're entitled, you're my helpmate, and just take it? No, I mean, what kind of relationship would that be? You understand? So, there's a lot going on here, and we really have to think it. Really have to think thoroughly. Another good point Kemal made. Let me just go to another good point he made about guys who jump into relationships and they are not ready. That's a very, very, very good point. That's a very good point. I agree with that 100%. You guys who you want to start chatting up this girl with, you don't know where it will go. It may very well get serious. Don't have a good job, don't have a good financial foundation, don't have any plans, no goals. They don't know where they want to be in the next few years. They're not ambitious. They're just there. They're just existing. You understand? No plan. What if, I'm dating this girl, things get serious, you end up getting married, you get married, and then what? There's 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 just no planning. There's no planning. On the flip side, um he mentioned something, just trying to remember now. Right, when Camille said something to the effect that I'm just responding to different things there that came up, okay? Not necessarily in particular order. He said that he will never find himself going and ask a woman for a permission to buy something or do whatever. And then he see himself um, buying his house next year and then buying a ride and be able to do, your woman will not have respect for you if you keep on asking every time for permission or whatever, something to that effect. You know, it's okay to have this ambitious mindset and want to be successful to the point where you can manage your finances and do what you want, have all that financial freedom and stuff. But the truth is, a lady told me once, 1 year after I got married, we were having a conversation, and she said to me, "Wayne, what do you want? What do you want to do in the future? What do you see yourself in the future?" And I said to her, I gave her my plan. What I wanted to do at 20, 25, 30, 35, all the way up to 50. I laid it out because it was very clear in my mind what I wanted to do, what I wanted to accomplish very early in my life. And after listening to me, she said to me, she said, that is very good. That is very good. I like the fact that you have a clear path and what you want to accomplish and the time frame to accomplish it and all that. But bear in mind, the plans that you make does not always plans not always work out. Things don't always work out the way you plan them. Man proposes, but God disposes. That was a statement that stuck with me, and I experienced that several times throughout my life. That the way I planned things were going exactly as planned up to a certain point in my life, and then other things came up that I did not plan for that disrupted my plans. Of course, you need to remain focused, huh? But other things came up that disrupted your plans, and you had to make changes along the way. So things did not ultimately turn out as smoothly and as perfect as they were planned, because life is just that way. The lady who actually told me that statement was Brandon's mother. Yeah,
Exactly. I
Brandon's mother
yeah,
was
that
actually
one.
now. There was a time, you see, back to that mind thinking about I'm the breadwinner, and as long as I'm making the money, I make the calls, and I'm in charge, and all that stuff. That is that you need to throw it out the window. There was one point in my life where I was making so much money. In fact, I was the main breadwinner. My wife, let me see, my wife wasn't working yet. She was at home, and I was bringing the bacon. At that point in time, I could have allowed that to go to my head and be like, I'm in charge, you do what I say, I make decisions, you're not part of it. And blah, blah. I could have adopted that mindset. But I deliberately did not, because a lot of men do that. A lot of men actually behave that way. I did not see the benefit in it, and I didn't think it was a healthy thing to do, to make anybody feel she's a free moral agent just like you are. And I don't think that you have to wear underwear to make her feel equal. You can maintain your manhood, maintain your respect and your dignity. You could still be in charge and have a firm hand, okay, in your relationship without robbing somebody of being able to make a decision or being part of a decision, or asking them to be part of something. Not necessarily asking for permission, because you're an adult and she's an adult, but consultation. Okay, making her feel a part of. Okay, she's an helpmeet, and the helpmeet here does not refer to being relegated to one or two functions. That's not it at all. That's a total misconception. That needs to go out the window. Okay, so being the breadwinner, I made the money. I came home and I gave my wife money to pay the bills and buy groceries and do what she had to do. Okay, and guess what? A few years later, I lost my job, and my wife was the only one working, and I was home for about 3 months not working. So let me ask a question. What if I was treating my wife like shit during that time? What do you think would have happened when the tables turned?
Yeah, well, at that point,
You understand? So you don't know where you're gonna end up in life. So you see it's that mindset. You need to enter your relationship. Yes, you're the man, and yes, you're the head, but you need to treat your partner like a human being. They equal, like you're equal, like you're still head of this relationship, but you don't treat them in a belittling fashion. You don't talk down. You don't disrespect. You don't make them feel any less of. Am I making any sense?
yeah, for sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
you
mean,
don't
you
you,
definitely
you
making
don't
sense, but once you complete your point, I want to say a few things. But
yeah.
yeah,
So you don't
I
make
hear where you're
you
coming.
yeah you don't make the person in that situation feel any less of. All right. So that's generally. Let me see. What did I write down again? Yes. So that is generally my take on it. I think I covered all the issues I wanted to rebuff. Um. Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah, so interesting points. Personally, I don't sit with some of them, but I also realize that there may have been some misunderstandings on what I say, because usually what I can admit is that sometimes the ideas and the things that are in my brain, I have everything is just firing and happening so fast that my mouth cannot keep up, and I cannot formulate and articulate every single point that I want to get across quick enough before I lose train of thought. But God gave people talent. Some He gave one talent, some He gave five, some He gave 10. Now I've been fortunate enough to have some friends whose parents are well over the nine-figure net worth, and I've spoken with them, and essentially, and I believe I have said it, before, is that not to necessarily be in a position to where I'm making decisions and I'm saying what I'm saying, and to be as a tyrant. That is not the end goal. But there is a line that is blurred between tyrannicism and having control over a certain situation. Now, women are essentially good and better at certain things and can do things that men cannot do. Men excel and do certain things better, and are better at certain things that women either cannot do or may not be able to excel in, right? Now, they are not Adventists, but yet
No,
still,
stick up in
right?
that is not necessarily true. That's the thinking that men had many years ago. That's why the market was dominated with men leading in almost every career field. You'd realize now with women breaking those glass ceilings that women are pretty much doing everything, almost everything that men were capable of doing. Women are doing, from astronomy to truck driving to construction. So that thing about there's certain things men can do better than women, or women can do better than men. That is not necessarily the truth, right? When it comes to child rearing, yeah, I think a woman will be better at raising a daughter and a man better raising a son than vice versa. Outside of that, I think women are just as capable as men of doing almost everything. If you disagree with me, give me an example as to something that women are better, men are able to do better than women.
Okay, so can we first agree that men are exceedingly more logical and women are exceedingly more emotional.
We can agree on
Or
that
it's
because
it's it's
that's
it's yeah, or it's
that's their
higher
makeup.
likely that
So
a man will be
men
logical,
do,
or exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
yes,
So can we also agree that your biological makeup can have an effect on your decision making?
to some extent, but not. That's not like a. That's not a given because you don't only make decisions based on your emotions. See, when it comes to decision making, and I get where you're going with this. When it comes to decision making, men deal with facts. All right, women they put a lot of emotion and their feelings into it as well. But that's not all they do. So, for example, a male manager versus a female manager. You have some female managers who just as hardline and straight, just like some men would do, and vice versa. You still have some men who would still have empathy and compassion in the decision making that they go about doing. So in as much as men are very logical, men deal with facts, and women, um, you know, I like to involve the emotions into it. That happens, but that is not like a rule of thumb.
Okay, so if you are in a plane, you're in a storm, the plane is about to crash. So you're saying you would be in a position to say, okay, well, you know what? In a highly stressful and emotionally inducing situation, you're okay with having a woman being the pilot of the plane and not an old man.
I would have no problem with that as long as the person is well trained.
Jesus.
You have women, but you have women pilots. You have women pilots, and you have men pilots. You have women who fly jet fighters. You have women astronomers. You have men who are just as capable. You have weak men. You have strong men. You have weak women. You have strong women. Am I right or am I wrong?
I can see that you're right, but these are you. It's like essentially the average. We speaking of in on average,
Hmm.
because a one-off woman that is stronger than a man doesn't necessarily mean that all women can be as strong as men.
All right. Let me share a perspective with you, right? Once upon a time, and that thought process actually came to me a few days ago. That with the move of the women's rights and equality and all that kind of stuff, right? I tried to figure a few days ago that came to mind. I was like, boy, where in the world did that thing start? And how did it gain momentum so quickly? And how did women? I think how I came to that thinking was I was reading an article online and I noticed there were quite a few women prime ministers around the world. And I can remember, I mean, way back, growing up, it was mostly men used to be prime ministers and presidents and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, wow, there's so many women in so many leadership positions. And then I got to thinking that in as much as men were, if we go way back to biblical times in the beginning, the Garden of Eden, man was actually given the position to lead. Man was placed as the leader, the head. All right. But over the years, Samuel, up to a day like today, men have failed, capital F, failed to maintain and keep their responsibility. Failed miserably. Okay? Look at men today. Men want to be women. They dress like women, behave like women, soft, no muscles, no hard work. Okay? Piercing their ears, perming their hair, putting lipstick, makeup. They want to be women. Okay? And who is not gay is on the block smoking. Who's not smoking is committing crime. Who's not committing crime is running woman. And what are women doing? Women have become even more focused, pushing their work, pushing their studies, getting themselves educated, getting career focused. So whilst men are forming the fool, Women are educating themselves and putting themselves in postures to take over some of those roles that men should have been leading out. Do I wrong them for it? No, because some of them seem to be doing even a better job than some of the men were doing. Yeah. Politically speaking, you have some of the women who are in political roles. You have less fiasco and less melee going on when women are at the helm. You understand? So at the end of the day, whilst men should have been at the forefront, I don't see anything wrong with women, performing the same roles. And I don't think that necessarily has to, that men have to feel, emasculated in the process. At least they shouldn't, from a spiritual point of view, because whether my wife is making 20,000, I'm making 10,000, that doesn't give her any right, as my wife to feel that she has to disrespect me as a man of the house. Okay. So that has to do a lot with your mental capacity, your maturity, your thinking and stuff like that. Okay. But just to put that out there.
Yeah, like I say, some people are given one talent, some people five, and some people 10. So I understand what you're saying, and it's this whole feminism movement essentially and third wave feminism that have been telling men that we don't need you anymore and drilling it into the minds of young men that it's okay to be emotional, it's okay to be you, you're free to do as you please, and it's okay, and we don't need men anymore. They even going as far as saying these days soon, men will be extinct and we will not need men to make children because you can take from the bone marrow and take the stem cells and whatever. So when you have a society that is essentially beating down on men constantly, I wouldn't blame men for just giving up, right? So, and I honestly, I blame men. I blame the men for allowing that to pierce their thick skull, because that could have never be me. But not everybody is me. You check what I'm saying. You check what I'm saying. So,
Right.
and going back to what I was saying, I'm been fortunate enough to have a discussion with a man who's been married for 60 years. At one point in time, owned 90% of all the houses and land in Cap Estate, and he was telling me that because of who he is as an individual, his wife had essentially never had to work a day in her life, right? And when I say helpmeet, I'm not saying she's only subject to one set position. When I say helpmeet, I mean as a man, if you have a goal. Say for example, if you're a pastor, and your plan is to say or baptize 100 people by the time the year end, or you have a much greater a destination you want to be at. A helpmeet is essentially someone, a woman who actually, not just because I'm hearing, some people have their own things they want to accomplish and their own things. The point is to be with a woman who actually wants the same thing that you want, so that the goal and so what you want to accomplish is actually amplified. So you would marry a woman who can help you, better get to that position or even amplify the goal that you wanted to achieve. If you want to achieve $100 million in 10 years, you would be with someone who is smart enough and who can help you and who can amplify you and your goal to help you get to that point, because she actually has the same goals that you do. The thing with compromise and this, that, and the other is if you were to be with someone who is separate in her goals, separate in her thinking, separate in the things she wants to achieve and the things you want to achieve, to my understanding. So if you were to be with someone who says, you know what, I actually genuinely do have the same goals that you do, my love, and I am going to help you get there because I respect you and I love you. You know what I'm saying?
But if she has the same goals with you, why would it be to help you get there? Wouldn't it be to help us get there?
Very true. I was just waiting to finish
Because you
making the
see,
point. Yeah.
because you see, the thing is, the thing is this, right? And my perspective and understanding of it is this, right? Honestly speaking, and not from a tyrannical point of view, at the end of the day, I'm the head of the house, right? And if there's a bump in the night, I'm going to have to be the one to bite that bullet and possibly die to protect you. My woman would know that anything that my man does, I benefit from. Because me, I want to be in a position where I can give my wife a credit card and say, you know what, you can spend it all. You can do what you want. I want to be in that position to where she doesn't have to consult me to spend anything. That's
Yeah,
the
but
position I want to be
but
in,
that may
right?
not be that may not be a very responsible position. It
I
sounds very good.
okay, I understand that, but I'm just saying I want to be in a position where she doesn't necessarily, you know, that's the way I see it, or another way of explaining it is I want to financially be in a position
Financial
to
freedom.
where if I lose my job in the next 3 months, I don't have to worry about money because I would have already been self-employed.
Right.
Like
So
I
what you're
say, some
talking about,
people were
what you're
given
talking about
10
there,
talents, some 5, and some 1.
yeah, what you're talking about there is financial freedom.
Precisely.
So 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 you saying that if the person well, I agree, the person that you involve yourself with should have or should be able to encourage you in accomplishing the goals that you have set out to, and not try to tear you down. Neither you should you try to tear them down. Now if like Brandon was saying, if you guys have the same goals in mind, it's not about preventing me from achieving my goals, but it should be us because she has the same goals as you. So it should be something where, in as much as you're looking for that person to encourage you and to push you, and amplify your goals, it goes two ways. It can't be one way. So it can't be where it's about my goals and I get it, but she has the same goals with you. She wants to be up there with you too. You understand? So it's not a competition. It's not a competition. And I would have to say I agree that if you have certain goals that you want to accomplish, again, I'll use myself as an example. Um, so you remember those goals I had? I mentioned to this young lady, well, she was a young lady at the time, when she asked me what my plans were. Yeah, I think I told her at the time I wanted to get married between the ages of 20 and 25. Okay, I wanted to get married by age 20, yeah, between 20 and 25, have kids between 25 and 30, have property between 30 and 35, property and house, and between the 35 and 40, put plans in place for self-employment. Like, so when I leave my 8 to 440 job, I would jump into my own business, and by 45, 50, be fully self-employed and sustained by my business. That was the plan. Okay, I accomplished most of that plan right on point, even down to how many kids I wanted. I wanted to have 2 kids. My wife wanted to have 4 kids. We had to compromise. There had to be a compromise. Huh? There was a lot of going back and forth, deciding, what we're gonna do. Eventually, you notice, so I have 2 boys. I have Dwayne and Darwin. Then there's a gap between Dwayne and Darwin and my last 3 kids. So during those years there was a lot of debating back and forth, compromising and so on. Eventually, so everything went exactly as planned, with the exact same timing I had planned. I got myself a good job. I got married. I had my first 2 kids within the time I wanted to. I got property. I had cars. I had car rental, and right up to baby number 3. That changes everything. So compromise came. Of course, I had to compromise, and as a result, you have to alter the plans that you have made. So I think early on in the discussion, I heard y'all saying, if you're in a relationship and your wife is pregnant and she says, well, you want to go out with the boys, but she doesn't want you to go or something of that sort, right?
Yeah, she's at home. She's pregnant, and she
Right.
asks for help, etc.,
So
etc.
right. So what do you do? Okay. Now in a situation like that, you have to be mature enough, okay, to realize, hey, you're not a bachelor anymore. You now have responsibilities. Your boys on the block do not have those. They probably don't have children to feed, or they're probably not even responsible, you know, or mature enough to reason that, listen, I can't be with the boys when I have an expecting wife. Because being a parent, or being a man for the matter of fact, does not start when your baby's born. It starts from the time your wife has conceived. Your responsibility has already started. Your mindset is supposed to change. Your priorities are supposed to be different. And if you're thinking way down the road, you can't be investing in time with your boys when you have. Now, that is not to say that you have to give up everything, including probably your goals that you want to pursue and so forth. Okay, so you know that problem, if it is a problem, should have been dealt with long before it became a problem. What I mean by that is, when you get into the relationship phase with somebody, all these things are things that are supposed to be discussed, read upon, talked about. You're not supposed to end up in a situation where you're now trying to figure out how you're going to respond, what you're going to do. That is the messed up situation that a lot of people find themselves in. They never discuss these things. They never saw it coming in the future to say, well, what if so and so occurs to us? How are we going to handle that? They never had a conversation. So they're now in a situation and it's problems because that person is responding in such a way that I did not think they would be so irresponsible. That person doesn't love me, he doesn't care about me, she doesn't care about me, she doesn't want me to have my freedom, she wants me to have lockdown, she wants me locked down in here, I can't go check my partners, I can't go on like total chaos. Probably not even compatible. Should not even be together. Should not even be having children. Okay, so some of those issues start long, long, long before you know they got to that stage, right? So again, you know, laying on the foundation for a proper relationship, and compatible, all these issues need to be dealt with long, long, very early in the early stages. What are your goals? What do you want to be? How do you see yourself getting from point A to point B? Talking about those things with your partner and getting their feedback, getting to know what their goals are, what they want to become in life, what they want to do, what path they plan to take. Now you can see, boy, that person is really good for me. I don't think having a long-term serious relationship with that person is actually going to allow me to accomplish X, Y, and Z. You will see that person's path is totally different from mine. You see, these are the things that, these are part of the foundational things that should be laid down. So long before you get involved, whether this thing has a chance of working or it ain't gonna work, whether this person is ambitious, lazy, whether they're the dependent, whether they are a liability, or are they going to be an asset? Are they going to be help you achieve your goals? Are they positive minded? Are they what you call there's some people they call optimistic or pessimistic, etc., etc., etc.
Okay.
Hello, mic check.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're in here.
when. No, no, we're just taking it in, man. We're taking it in. You
Yeah,
said a lot, man. You said a lot.
Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah. My internet kind of like cut out for a brief moment,
Yeah,
but
it knows you right now.
yeah,
But what
I
I
mean,
said, does that make sense?
yeah, it makes sense, interesting perspectives, but for me, like the type of individuals that I've surrounded myself with and the person I want to become,
Mhm.
essentially a lot of issues that are faced in the average relationship would not rear its head as much
Start again.
because
Restart again. Start again.
so that the issues that would necessarily arise in the average relationship,
Mm-hmm.
being in the position that I would love to that I would love to be in,
Right.
it doesn't necessarily arise as much or if even at all because
That sounds
some
like because
situations
is that
uh
because is is that because that you will be so well grounded financially that a lot of the problems that arise in other relationships will not occur in your relationships because being in a good position financially and probably materially it would take care of a lot of those issues that are arising in a relationship. Is that what you're getting?
so no, that's not well. Financial finances is one of the reasons, but it is not everything. As you and I both know, that material things come and go. Money, at the end of the day, all of these things burning, right? But so that's not essentially, or that is not fully the reason and the only reason, and should not be the only reason why. Because if a woman is for you for your money alone, then that is a problem, right?
Right.
But yeah, like I was saying, the individuals that I've been privileged to speak with and what they have shared with me in their relationships and their marriages and what has helped, and being fortunate to be in a financial position where their wife never had to work a day in her life, but had time to take care of the hobbies, take care of the kids, take the kids to soccer practice, and did not have to worry about a single thing. That is where I would like to be. I want to be in that position to where my wife doesn't have to be in a stressful situation or have to worry about a job or have to worry about certain things. I personally don't want to be in that position. And that's essentially it.
Mic check, mic check.
Mic
Yeah,
check.
we here, we here,
That
we here.
sounds like Camille. That honestly, that sounds like I want to be in a position where I have enough money where I can take care of my family. My family doesn't have to work. They don't have to worry about anything, and so I will not have them kind of problems.
Problems will arise, but majority of issues that many individuals face or polarizing or decisions that may be opposing or decisions that essentially okay, let me simplify it because I know it's going on in my head, but my tongue cannot roll the words off of itself to explain what I want to explain
Yeah,
in detail and clearly. So let me take my time to formulate my thoughts really quickly.
yeah,
All right, so boom. I'm not saying that because I'm rich and because I want to be wealthy that that my wife is taken care of and this, that, and the third that problems will not arise. Obviously problems would arise, but problems that may have reared its head or would have reared their heads would not be that frequent because of that position that I'm in. Now, problems would still arise, but because of the kind of woman that I want and because of the kind of person that I am, I may sound like I'm a condescending, tyrannical, even though I've said that I'm not that kind of person, regardless of what I've said, would allow us to smoothly pass over those situations, especially with Christ at the center of the relationship, right? Because I want someone who wants to fully embody the Edenic relationship. I know things have changed and women have become this and that in the food, but I don't want that kind of woman. If I want a red snapper, I must go to where there is red snapper and not where there is bass.
So let me ask you a question. That's not just a chemical, but I'm just going to throw that question out there, right? Have any of you ever wondered why, quote unquote, successful marriages or successful relationships fail? Like people have been together for a number of years, they seem to be doing well, happy, kids, good family, good jobs, cars, big house, all of that stuff. Ever wondered why people seem to be doing so okay and happy, and then after a while they split? Like it leaves you totally puzzled as to what in the world just happened or what's going on. Have you ever, have you ever wondered that, and wondered probably why, what caused this? Is it almost seems that nobody's immune to relationship failures and disappointment and so on.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I've
agree, and I
wondered.
do see that. And the statistics actually show that the wealthier the individual or couple is, the less likely they are to divorce. And these are actual statistics, right? But so you're saying that if I were to be in a position where I'm wealthy enough to where my family or my wife doesn't have to work, we both genuinely have a relationship with Christ. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing the best that I can as the head and the man of the house to lead in a loving position, and my wife is happy in a position to where she, is happy with the situation that she's in and happily being married to me and having a relationship with Christ as well. That I'm still in a problematic situation, in as much as we may face adversity, given that we have that much more in common and have a serious relationship with Christ, right? You are saying to me that still, like I don't get it. Like to me, I don't get it. Like I don't get it. I don't get it.
So,
I don't get it.
um, if with all your ambitious plans and your goals and all that kind of stuff, let us say you did, I'll give you two scenarios. Let's say you did actually make it to the top. All right, you made it to the top, but you lost it all. Would you feel at the end of the day that you would have failed, or would you have feel, even if you lost it all, would you still feel um, some source of some sort of accomplishment? You were still able to accomplish? You still love and appreciate and value your family, or would you feel less of a man or husband or spouse because you're not able to meet that ideal where she did not have to work, or put or have an endless supply of um you know whatever your needs were.
Question. And for me personally, I'm of the
Yeah,
belief that if a man is not happy with what he already has,
yeah,
there is nothing in the world that will ever make him happy. So I may sound like, yeah, I want to be wealthy and I want to this, that. But I
yeah,
am of the firm belief that eventually, forgive my French, but all of this, let me not even say it, all of this nonsense will burn. All the money, eventually it'll come to a point where, yes, I may have a Rolls
yeah,
Royce, I may have a Lambo, I may have this and I
yeah,
may have that, but I will not be able to buy or sell eventually. So I will not be able to buy the gas to put in it. I will not be able to bring that to the mechanic. I will not be able to buy the groceries. I will not be able to buy the bags. I will not be able to take the flights. So eventually, all of this is just going to feces,
yeah,
essentially. So I have, in as much as I want to be in that position, I
yeah,
actually do have no attachment to it. Now, that's a polarizing place to be mentally, having
Yeah.
no attachment to it, but yet wanting it at the same time.
Yeah.
But to answer it directly, if I were and when, because I know, let me tell you something, my friend. Let me tell you something. I know I will get to that point. I know
Okay.
I will get to that point.
So
And when
Ken,
I
let me
get to
ask.
that point, I'll pick you
Yeah,
up
I'm finished.
from the airport in the Rolls Royce, and we'll take a trip, all of us, right?
So Ken, let me tell you. What
But
if
if I
you?
were to lose it, then
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So Ken, what if you? What if? Oh boy, I lost my train of thought. What if you? I had to ask you. What if you had this and you lost it? But I had another question that just like this. Right. What if you had it? What if you got it? But in the end, you lost your family, your wife and kids, or maybe wife only, whatever. But you had it. So yeah. So what if you had it, but then at the end, when you got to the top, you did not have the family? What? How do you think you would feel or react to what would your position be?
Like getting to that point means that I would never eventually have a family, essentially.
No, no. Let's say, I mean, so you're a very focused guy. You have your goals. You are full steam ahead. That is what you want to accomplish. You, by all means, you want to accomplish this, but you're not going to sacrifice accomplishing this goal. So what if you got to the top? You got all of these things that you spoke about, but at the end, your family was not there. Maybe they left. They're not there. Not they didn't die or some they left for some reason. They broke away. Maybe they no longer shared the same goals or vision with you or whatever. Maybe they left for lack of, I don't know. But you did not have them there. The end picture, it was just you and your successes.
That's a very interesting question. So, funny enough, I don't think I've ever shared this with anyone, but me, y'all, those of y'all who know me, know I like to be straight up,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
I was once in a position in my life, I call it confusion, but I actually believe that I was an angel. You know, like I'm being so serious. I was no longer going by he or him. I was going by it, that, they, and them because I genuinely felt like I just wanted to cut my dick off and just like when I get to that financial position, literally just not give it all away, but those that will in need to actually travel the world to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people, and make it my life goal to quite literally spread God's word. And because of my financial position that I was in, to quite literally not just give people the fish to eat, but to teach them to fish and to go throughout all the world and to accomplish that mission. And at that point in time, the women were not in my mind, right? So if I were, God forbid, to get into that position, and for example, like you said, my family were to have left me, or even if getting to that position meant I had to sacrifice family, personally speaking, and it's going to sound crazy, but I can live without a family. But my goal, even with living without a family, in as much as I may not, I have snapped out of that confusion mentally, and I realize that I'm a human, I'm not an angel, I have a gender. I would still want to quite literally travel the world and help others and to change people's lives. And then when they say, who are you and whatever, and then I can tell them, it is only Jesus, only God in me that has blessed me enough to be in a position to where I am now to present others to Christ, right? Because ultimately, let me tell you something about earth. At the end of the day, wife and this and cars and all of that, at the end of the day, in reality, my true end goal is have the most stars in my crown in heaven. I want to have more stars in my crown than everybody, right? That's my true end goal. So even if I were to never have a family, but I was still able to quite literally do the work I was called and created to do, I can die happy and I can die a happy man.
That's a very interesting response. And the reason why I asked it, I will tell you, is because so some people who, in pursuit of success and financial freedom, they sacrifice everything, including their families, to get it. And when they get to the top, you have some people who will not feel any form of guilt, or they won't feel any way, because that is what their focus was, to get to the top. But some people now, on the other hand, when they get to the top and they have success and everything, they feel empty, because being at the top and having all that you can has no meaning or value unless you have someone to share it with. Like, those that you love and cherish most to share it with. It literally has no value. Imagine. And that's why a lot of people, a lot of successful people who are rich and who have all of the things, they always, I mean, don't take my word for it. Search the internet and you'll see. And I'm sure you've asked yourself that question several times. Why is it people who are so successful and so rich and they have everything that money can buy? Why do they turn to drugs and alcohol and destructive lives? I mean, you have all the money that you can do anything you want. Why would somebody possibly take that road to self-destruction? You all have heard the term charity starts at home. And anybody has any idea what that means?
No, I don't know. I don't know that. This, I don't know
Charity
what it means.
begins at home. So before you can even show empathy and compassion and love and all these attributes to people out there in the world, the people you want to save and bring to Jesus and all of that stuff, you should actually be doing it with the people around you, your family, your neighbors, those you interact with. Charity begins at home. Your good intentions and your good thoughts and your good whatever should start with the people around you. So it's if you are genuine about what you're doing, it should not come to the point where you don't necessarily care about the people around you, but you don't care about the people around you, but you want to save the world. Really? You see the hypocrisy in that? Right. So it should be portrayed in your immediate son. That's almost like the going back to the Bible said, how you say you love Jesus, you cannot see. But the people that are right or wrong with you, that you're not showing love and compassion to them. Yeah. I asked that question to see where exactly you were on this, but you did say in the end that your end goal is to fulfill the commission that Christ gave to us, which is to go out there and we sow. But losing your family in the process should not be if that's what it is, that's what it is. Your family is also part of the people out there that need to be saved. So there may be circumstances where, I mean, you may not have full control over them leaving. Don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking absolute. They obviously you don't have full control over whether they leave or stay, but you should do all within your power um, to to maintain your family, not just taking care of them, but ensuring that your family is not just physical needs are met, emotional, spiritual, etc., etc., etc.
Interesting. Very interesting. I
Wow.
guess I feel like my mind is just too complex for people to understand because in the comments that you made, I know for a fact that you may have misunderstood the way I had expressed myself and what I had said. So essentially, I'm not saying that I want to do these things and I don't care about the people around me. But the question was framed specifically, how would you feel if you got to that point and you didn't have a family or family left? And directly, it's I would feel okay with it because ultimately my goal is to, and I explained what it was. But that doesn't necessarily mean I hadn't done, essentially everything in my power or everything I could to keep my family intact, to love my family, to care for my family. Because, like Job was a very wealthy man. He had his wife, he had his kids. I'm sure Job tried his hardest to keep his family together, but in the end, he lost it all. But he was still in a good mood and still happy because he knew his goal was to serve the king, to serve God, to serve Christ. So, in that same light and
I
respect,
mean,
it doesn't necessarily mean that because I get to that point, I will sacrifice and I will, I will go to do drugs because I don't have people to love me and I will not, take care of those around me. That doesn't necessarily mean I will be your typical wealthy individual because the rain falls on the just and the unjust. Because I am wealthy doesn't necessarily mean that I am unjust, so I would show majority traits of someone who is the average wealthy individual. At the
I
end of the
would.
day, right, my wealth would have come from him and to be used for his purposes. So, you know,
I would like to interject here and just note that when Job was at his lowest, it wasn't that he was happy. Job did go through serious grief. Was just that he understood, like, whether you're happy or sad, whether you have things or not, you still have to give praise and thanks to God.
my internet freaking out there.
Oh, you didn't get everything Kid said?
Hello, can you guys hear me? Can
Yeah,
you
we
be
can
able
hear
to
you. We
hear
can
Yeah,
me?
hear
we can hear
you.
you.
Yeah, just repeat for him again. Go ahead.
Alright, so what I was saying is, it wasn't that Job was happy even when he had nothing. He went for a lot of grief, losing all that stuff. But it's just that it was not able to shake his faith in God, and he recognized that even when you don't have nothing, even when you're sad, you still have to praise God and give thanks to Him. And because of that, because of that faith, he actually ended up even better off than he was initially. He's just a side character.
Ah, okay.
Okay,
I see.
thanks, I guess.
Okay. Um. Wow. I mean, we've said a lot.
And that one is a heavy. That's a
That one
heavy
is a
episode.
super heavy. We definitely have to definitely try and as a potato hot and thing. We had to try and keep throwing it up because I know the discussion has been very very interesting. But I want to make the yeah. All right.
So I think overall, um, there's nothing wrong with being successful. Let me just put out. There's nothing wrong with being successful. There's nothing wrong in being rich. There's nothing wrong with being or having financial freedom to the point where you can take care of your family so sufficiently that they may not have to work, okay, and all that. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. Um, because the Bible does tell us that God Himself wishes that we would prosper in all things, okay? Um, and He does wish also include that our souls would prosper as well. So I think what should be first and foremost in our idea of success and you know is that we put God first, obviously. Like the perfect example I was just mentioned there, Job, that we put God first so much to the point that if we had to reach the top and lose at the end of the day, that despite our grief, our disappointment, like Glenn so wonderfully said, that we would have been so connected that despite our grief and our disappointments, our loss, we would have known that if God was able to make a way to make it happen or provide it for us, that we should trust Him enough to be able to do it again. And understand, even if He did not do it again, like the Hebrew boys, whatever the outcome of stepping into that furnace would have been His will. But the fact remains that our faith should be so rooted and planted in God. We should be so sure that you know the life that we live is His will, and continually ask for His will to be done in our lives, so that whatever the outcome is, it should be well with our soul. Job's wife gave up on him. Um, he lost his strength. He lost all that he had. And like Glenn said, he did have a heavy heart and he did mourn. He was very mournful, but he even challenged God at one point, actually. But he never lost faith. And I think that is key. That is so important.
I mean, we can basically take that as a closing remark, you know. So I mean, since you started the ball rolling so nicely, um, I guess we could go straight up to the top. With number one hero. Um,
Or you doing closing remarks?
yeah, we're about to close. Since we
Um,
practically overtime already.
yeah, yeah. What can I say? That hasn't already been said. I think at the end of the day, one of the most important points to remember um, is that if there's anything that you feel like you don't need to consult your wife for, it's definitely buying a BRZ. That's a decision every man should be able to make. But other than that, balance is key. And balance brings compromise. Um, so keep that in mind. Keep the standings of each partner in the relationship in mind. Um, and just remember where you stand. Just remember what's necessary to make that relationship work. No man is an island. Um, so don't try to govern everything on your own.
I'm surprised saying that coming from you, man.
Well, you know, I might not work well with everybody, but I have my moment.
I get you, I get you. Alright, Glenn, Kid. I know you're not here for the entire pod, but you know,
Yeah,
you
you
can
might
give
have
what you
pretty much
can.
missed the whole thing.
Something for the audience to take home with or take throughout the week.
Well, if you're going to take something away from this podcast, I believe it should be that you should always be thankful for what you have, and that's not just material things, but the people in your life. Make sure to show appreciation, reach out to them, make sure that they know that you love them, because life is uncertain. It can be taken from you, and just might and that possibility should never be underestimated. Should
Yeah.
express your feelings for these people who are close to you, your loved ones, for it's too late.
Okay.
Because
Well said. Well
if
said.
the time comes and you have not and you never reached out, you will regret it, and it will eat away at your heart for the rest of your life.
That's very true. Very well said. All right, Master Kim. I said it, man.
So as for me personally, I don't know if you guys read the literature I sent about the allegory of the cave, but
Oh yeah.
there are
I
three
read it.
mental complexities. The first, who only reads and reflects the information that is shown them and does not know otherwise. There's the second, who decides to venture out and to view or to try to view the world objectively, but still use the world through a bias filter. And the third, who can truly accept and learn to love alternate perspectives and still has a filter, but is still willing to admit when they're wrong, to grow, and to essentially, be a better version of themselves. Another good comparison is the first being someone who is driven by someone else. They have no control over where they are going and how they are going and how fast they are going. The second is like the driver. They are in control of the vehicle, which is their mind, but they still are not able to change their direction due to their bias. But the third is in control of the vehicle, but the mental complexity is mature and complex enough that they can alter the very destination itself. And I'm thankful that I'm able to accept and to listen to alternative perspectives and respect them, even if I may not, necessarily choose to apply them to the destination to where I'm going, but to still hear alternate perspectives. I really do love it. What I personally, not really happy with is the fact that, in as much as I believe to know as much as I know, I'm still not able to articulate the points that I would love to. So I honestly speaking, I do feel that I was misunderstood for 98% of this entire conversation. But we move. Time has already been fast spent. But it's still good to hear different perspectives and to take what is necessary for my destination and to learn and to grow.
Hmm. Okay. For me, all I will say is, so much has been said. All I will say is, I think I said this in the chat before. Different perspectives make for. Oops. Hold on. Okay. Can everyone hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
Nice. Different perspectives make for. Different perspective makes for. Um, interesting friendships, and that's what I will um end with. With that said, this was episode 19 of the Inconsistent Experience, and we will see you guys next week. Hopefully, we'll make something work. And yes, good night, everyone.